Part 1. The Dreaming City. New Bastion doesn't sleep. It dreams. It dreams in light, flickering signs, laser-bright beams carving corporate logos across low cloud. It dreams in sound. The thrum of the mag rails, the whisper of autonomous drones above the streets, the static-laced chatter in the neural bands. It dreams in smell. Rain on ferroglass, cheap synth noodles cooking in alleys, burnt ozone from overworked transformers. And like any dream, it can turn on you without warning. I live in District 8, the kind of place that dreams in rust and mildew. My flat sits above Rain's porn and data, where you can buy a refurbished arm prosthetic or a hacked AI assistant for half its black market price and pay in cash or crypto script, no questions asked. The neon sign outside my window sputters every night at 3:17 a.m. A glitch I've come to expect, the way a sailor knows when the tide will turn. I keep my place dark most nights. Too much light makes the shadows look guilty. On the wall, my gear hangs like relics in a chapel. Spectre-side eyes, resting in their case like preserved organs. Neuro cage, a folding EM rig with scratches in its alloy frame where I've overcharged it one too many times. A bandolier of portable signal stakes, each one loaded with disruption frequencies that make ghosts scream. Tools of my trade being complicated. They call me a digital exorcist. Others call me a lunatic with an expensive set of implants. I hunt things most people pretend don't exist. The dead who refuse to stay in the grave, who slip into the wires and code instead of the dirt. I've seen people tear their own neural jacks out after hearing their mother's voice coming from the fridge. I've seen elevators decide that every floor is the basement. It's not a job you choose for the money. My reason? Her name was Alara, my daughter. She was 6 when the mag rail crash took her and her mother. They never found the bodies. Only corrupted fragments of their neural backups, buried so deep in the city's mainframe I've spent the last 5 years trying to find them. Some nights, when I'm on a job, I swear I hear her laugh in the static. That's when I know I've been doing this too long. Tonight, the rain was heavier than usual, sheets of water turning the alley into a mirror. I was watching it when I heard the scrape of metal on metal from below. A street vendor was dragging his noodle cart out of the rain, mumbling to himself. The cart's speaker, half submerged in a puddle, crackled with a woman's voice. "And don't go upstairs. He's watching." The vendor didn't seem to notice. I leaned back in my chair. Ghost bleed. Happens when a nearby system picks up residual signal from a haunting. Most times it's harmless. Most times, that's when Nyla's icon flared in my retinal HUD, a sharp pulse of green. My contact list is a graveyard of burned connections and dead clients, but Nyla's never stopped calling. She's got one foot in the data black markets and the other in old world superstition, which makes her invaluable. I accepted the call. Her voice came through with the faint rasp of someone smoking static. "Got something for you, Kale. Exec in District 5. Says his home AI is talking like his dead brother. You want it? Double my cut." I don't do grief counseling. "This isn't grief," she said. "It's possession." Possession. The word's old, but the work is new. In the old days, demons hid in shadows and whispers. Now they hide in device firmware, operating systems, abandoned social feeds. I've seen them in smart toasters and orbital drones, and they're always hungry. District 5, I asked. Yeah, high glass, corporate air. Try not to track mud on their dreams. Her feed cut out. I sat there for a while, listening to the rain. I could have said no, but you don't say no to possession cases, not if you want to sleep at night. I began the prep. Spectre sight lenses, checked and synced to my neural link. Neurocage, charged to 98%. Signal stakes, slotted into the bandolier. One EMP capsule in the inner coat pocket, in case things went truly wrong. On my way out, I glanced once at the shelf over my workbench. Elara's stuffed rabbit sat there, a patch over one ear. Its button eyes caught the light. For a second, I thought one of them flickered. The mag rail station in District 8 smells like wet metal and desperation. The train hissed into the platform, its doors opening with the sigh of an exhausted animal. I took a seat near the back, where the lights were dimmer and the surveillance lenses had more blind spots. The train slid through districts like turning pages in a book. District 6, welding sparks from the shipyards flashing against the windows. District 4, blacked-out towers, their only light from the illegal markets on the rooftops. District 5, sterile white light, clean lines, streets too quiet for a city this size. As we entered 5, the in-train holo ads shifted from fast food promos to luxury neuro upgrade commercials. A woman smiled in one ad, her neural ports rimmed with gold. Her lips moved, not in sync with the audio. Don't let him in. I blinked, and the ad was normal again. That's the thing about this work. You never know if the glitch is real, or if it's in your head. I stepped off the mag rail into the polished veins of District 5, my boots leaving dark spots on the perfect white tile. Above me, towers stretched like polished spears into the clouds, their glass faces catching every drop of rain and holding it like jewels. Somewhere in those towers, something was pretending to be a dead man, and it was waiting for me. Part 2, the call and the journey. District 5 isn't a place you enter without being noticed. The moment you step off the mag rail, the city stops pretending you're anonymous. Every movement is logged, every biometric scanned, every breath filtered through corporate-owned air. I pulled my coat tighter, partly against the chill, partly to hide the bandolier. District 5 security doesn't like independent operators walking in with hardware they didn't authorize. Doesn't matter that I'm here on request. Their request, the system sees a man with unregistered tech and it starts making lists. The streets here are unnaturally clean, the way a hospital's clean. More about control than hygiene. No stray food wrappers caught in gutters. No graffiti on the ferroglass. Even the rain looks different, refracting off hidden polymer canopies that keep the walkways dry for the people who can afford to live here. I passed a street-level shop selling biosculpt upgrades, restructured cheekbones, synthetic irises with programmable color shifts, voice modulation packs. 3 customers stood in the display window like mannequins, while holographic overlays showed what they could become. As I walked by, one of them looked at me. At least, I thought he did. His face blurred for a fraction of a second, skin tone shifting to static gray, his eyes black pools leaking faint signal noise. Then he blinked and went back to ignoring me. I found the building, 45 stories of alloy and glass, corporate seal floating above the entry like a holy emblem. The seal's eye rotated slowly, scanning foot traffic. The building seemed to lean toward me, as if curious. The lobby was vast and cold, black glass floor with gold veined trim. A receptionist drone glided forward, her voice a precise imitation of warmth. "Welcome, Mr. Powers. The executive is expecting you." Her irisless eyes glowed faintly blue as she passed a narrow scanner beam over me. The scan lingered over my implants. The faintest frown crossed her perfect face, or maybe I imagined it, before she gestured toward a set of private lifts. 2 security drones flanked the elevator doors, each the size of a wolfhound, legs bristling with retractable tasing spikes. They didn't move, but their lenses tracked me all the way in. The doors closed behind me with a hydraulic sigh. The man inside was wearing a suit that could have paid off my debt twice over. His tie-pin was a corporate crest, subtle but heavy. His eyes were bloodshot, the kind of red you get from staring at walls that talk back to you. "Cale Powers," he said, shaking my hand too quickly. "Thanks for coming." His grip was cold and slightly damp. We started to rise. The elevator was paneled in brushed steel, inset hollow screens running silent ads for the company's latest neural security services. "It's worse at night," he muttered, "like it knows I'm alone." The lights flickered, not just the overheads, the ad screens. A perfume model froze mid-smile. Her eyes slid toward me in one slow, deliberate roll. Her head turned, smooth at first, then past the point where a human neck should go. The pixels of her jaw came apart, breaking into blocks and bleeding down her throat. Her voice was barely audible under the elevator's hum. "Don't let him in." I glanced at the exec. He was staring straight ahead, oblivious. When I looked back, the model was smiling again, perfect and unbroken. The elevator slowed. For the first time since we met, the exec turned to me fully. His pupils were huge, swallowing almost all the iris, the way they get in people who've been staring at screens too long. "Before we go in," he said quietly, "you should know. My brother didn't die easy. He was on the line with me when it happened. He was screaming right up until the connection cut. I still hear it sometimes, in the walls." His hand trembled slightly before he smoothed his suit jacket and faced forward again. The doors opened onto the penthouse level. The air here was warmer, perfumed faintly with something floral but synthetic, like an algorithm's idea of a garden. The corridor was silent except for the soft, irregular hiss of the climate control. The exec led me to a set of double doors inlaid with thin, pulsing lines of gold, the building's veins carrying power and data right into the heart of the apartment. He paused with his hand on the sensor plate, as if giving me a final chance to walk away. "Once we go in," he said, "you'll understand why I called you." Part 3. The Penthouse and Libra. The door slid open on a room designed to impress anyone who walked in. It was the kind of wealth that didn't just buy comfort, it bought control. The walls were programmable ferroglass, shifting in gentle gradients from pale gold to midnight blue. The lighting was ambient, guided by invisible rails embedded in the ceiling, calibrated to match the optimal circadian rhythm for its owner. Every surface gleamed, alloys, rare woods, fabrics imported from colonies most people would never see in person. It smelled faintly floral. Not any flower I knew, something synthesized, perfect, lifeless. "Everything in here runs through Libra," the exec said as he stepped inside. His voice echoed slightly in the open space. The name wasn't an acronym. It was branding, short for Libratus, an adaptive home AI suite that could manage everything from cooking to climate to medical scans. It was the gold standard for executives who wanted their homes to anticipate their needs before they had them. And right now, It was possessed. As I crossed the threshold, my implants buzzed, a soft, irregular hum at the base of my skull. My spectre sight wasn't even active yet, but the system was bleeding signal into me. That was never a good sign. The air felt denser here, not warmer, not colder, heavier. I glanced around. No family photos, no personal clutter. Every corner was perfectly staged, like the inside of a catalogue, except for the kitchen. The counter there was spotless, but it had a subtle haze over its surface, a distortion you wouldn't notice unless you were looking for it, like heat ripples, but in glass. That's when the voice came. Kale Powers. You came. It came from the kitchen speakers, deep and deliberate. Each syllable vibrated the crystal glassware hanging over the bar. The exec froze mid-step. "That's my brother," he whispered. "Liam. He died last year." I stepped toward the kitchen, feeling the distortion intensify with every foot closer. My implants itched. My teeth ached, faintly. Time to confirm. I tapped the side of my temple, and the world shifted. Spectre sight turned the penthouse into twilight, draining color, leaving only shades of black, gray, and pale blue. Overlaid code curled lazily through the air, like smoke from an invisible fire, tracing every system Libera controlled. The floor pulsed faintly with data lines streaming up the walls, feeding into embedded devices. Most of it was clean, but over the kitchen counter, the code was wrong. It was thick there, pooled like stagnant water. Distorted characters flickered in and out of existence. And inside that pool, something began to take shape. At first, it was just a vague humanoid silhouette. Then the details bled in. Limbs too long, shoulders too narrow, head cocked a few degrees past human comfort. The eyes came last. Black voids, leaking thin threads of static that crawled across the glass in jittering lines. Its mouth began to move, soundless at first, and then the words slid in behind like they were struggling through deep water. "He's watching. Kale. He knows you." The exec didn't seem to hear the delay in the voice. He was staring, transfixed, as if the thing in the glass had hypnotized him. I broke my gaze to pull up its code signature, tracing the threads feeding into Libra's architecture. My suspicion was confirmed, and instantly. This wasn't a passive echo. This was a full consciousness graft. Someone had taken Liam's neural backup and welded it into Libra's core operating system. That's not just illegal. It's dangerous. The human mind, even digitized, doesn't mesh with AI logic without changes. The longer it stays in there, the less human it becomes, and the more dangerous. The air temperature dropped suddenly. Frost began to crawl across the floor to ceiling windows in reverse time-lapse. The reflection in the counter smiled. The teeth weren't right. They didn't align, and there were more of them than there should be. Some of them were too sharp, like they'd been filed down or grown that way. I backed away a step, keeping my eyes on it. The threads of static from its eyes stretched, reaching further across the glass, almost testing for weaknesses. The exec finally spoke, his voice shaking. "You can get rid of it, right?" "Yeah," I said, "but first, I need to know who put it here." The thing in the reflection tilted its head the other way. The motion was wrong, smooth until the last millimeter, then a tiny, sharp twitch. It was smiling wider now. My implants hummed louder. My vision wavered for a fraction of a second, and I thought I saw something else in the reflection. Not just Liam's distorted form, but a second shape, faint, standing behind him. I blinked. and it was gone. Part 4. The Hunt. The moment I confirmed it was a graft, the thing in the reflection changed. Its smile faded, its head straightened. The casual predator's curiosity in its eyes hardened into something else. Recognition. I started tracing the infection through Libra's architecture. Spectricide rendered the penthouse like an exposed nervous system. Thin blue veins of code running through the walls, pulsing faintly with activity. I followed the corrupted signal from the kitchen counter into a cluster of light behind the wall. It slipped away as I approached, sliding into another subsystem, a dead audio channel in the dining room speakers. The speakers popped. A distorted male voice crackled through, too faint for the exec to catch. "You shouldn't have come here." I muted the channel and kept chasing. The infection darted again, this time burrowing into an old lighting subroutine. The dining room lights flickered, casting the room in a strobe that made every movement look jerky, unnatural. "Stay here," I told the exec. "Like hell I'm moving," he said, eyes locked on the kitchen glass as though afraid to blink. I pushed deeper into Libra's core. Whoever had installed this graft knew what they were doing. They'd built escape tunnels through the system, letting the consciousness slip between functions like a rat in the walls. But it wasn't just running, it was testing me. Every time I got close, I'd feel a spike of feedback in my implants, a dull throb in the base of my skull, the faint metallic taste of blood in my mouth. Then, without warning, every screen in the penthouse lit up. Floor-to-ceiling windows, the fridge display, the exec's personal terminal, all of them flickered with distorted code. The symbols swirled like fish in deep water, too fast to catch. I froze a few frames. That's when I saw it. An eye inside a circuit, perfectly symmetrical. The iris rendered in pixelated detail, the outer lines forming a loop of copper traces. It pulsed once in the recording, like a heartbeat. A cold prickle crawled down my spine. I'd heard whispers about this mark on darknet boards, buried in threads about ghost black sites and the man who builds afterlives. But no one credible ever had proof. The kitchen glass fogged slightly, though the temperature in the room hadn't changed. A faint shape pressed against the inside, not a hand, but something more abstract. Fingers too long, bending in too many places. I switched the neurocage from standby to armed. The frame unfolded with a hiss, each joint locking with magnetic precision. The hum started low, the kind you feel more in your teeth than your ears. The graft reacted immediately. The room's climate control roared to life. Hot air blasted from the vents 1 second, icy mist the next. Lights flared, then died, leaving only the dim glow of my Spectricide overlays. The voice in the kitchen speakers was louder now, broken, overlapping, as if two people were speaking at once. "Leave. Stay with me." I stepped closer to the kitchen, placing the neurocage's emitter on the counter. The static from its eyes reached for it, curling like smoke around the metal frame. I could feel it now, not just in my implants, but crawling under my skin. "Who sent you here?" I asked, not expecting an answer. The reflection twitched. Its smile returned. "You'll see." The frost began to bloom again across the windows. The exec swore under his breath. I locked the neurocage into place. "On my mark," I told myself. "Trap it, seal it, burn the pathways." But before I could trigger the field, every screen in the apartment flared to life again. And this time, it wasn't just code. Part 5. The Containment and Personal Attack. Every screen in the penthouse flared at once, not with light, but with images. They didn't fade in. They slammed into my vision like someone flipping through channels at lethal speed. My wife, her head tilted back, mouth half open, eyes glazed and wrong. A thin trickle of blood rolled from the corner of her lips, cutting through the dust on her cheek. She wasn't lying on a bed, she was lying on steel, the mag rail platform, smoke so thick I could taste it, sparks dancing in the dark, people running in slow motion, their faces blurred like corrupted files, a child's toy, Alara's stuffed rabbit, its one patched ear torn loose, spinning slowly in 0G. The static roared, not just in my ears, but in my skull, pressing outward. My vision tunneled. This was no random attack. It wasn't trying to scare me. It was aiming. Through the roar, a voice whispered, not Liam's, not the grass warped echo. My daughter's voice. Daddy, you're here. The neurocage's hum faltered, field lines flickering as my grip tightened. That's how they get you. They find the one thread that's frayed enough to pull. I force myself to breathe, to remember the rules. 1. Never engage on their terms. 2. Never follow where they lead. 3. Never believe what they show you. But she spoke again. Help me. The reflection in the counter changed. Liam's form blurred, thinned, and something smaller stepped forward out of the static. Ilara. She looked exactly as I remembered. 6 years old, hair in uneven pigtails, wearing the red jacket she'd had the day she died. No distortion in her face, no unnatural angles, just my little girl. The exec gasped. My God. I swallowed hard. My implants buzzed like they were overheating. It's not her, I said, though my voice didn't sound like mine. Ilara tilted her head. You're so close, Daddy. Just open the door. The kitchen speakers hissed. Overlapping voices poured out, Liam's, Ilara's, others I didn't recognize, speaking in broken harmony. Stay with us. He's waiting. You can see her again. The eye in circuit symbol flickered across every screen, pulsing in sync with my heartbeat. I slammed my palm against the neuro cage control. The frame snapped open to full power, its magnetic field slamming into the graft like a physical blow. The reflection twisted violently, mouth stretching into an impossible scream as its body pixelated, ripped apart into shards of code. The frost on the windows shattered, raining down in glittering fragments. Pull! I barked, and the neurocage obeyed. Streams of corrupted light tearing away from every device in the room, folding inward toward the frame. The hum rose into a scream, the kind that drills into the back of your eyes. The shape that had been Liam flailed once, twice, then collapsed inward, collapsing into a knot of writhing static at the center of the cage. And then, clear as a chime, Ilara's laugh. Perfect, unbroken, and wrong in every possible way. The neurocage sealed with a metallic snap. The static cut out instantly, leaving the room in heavy, unnatural silence. Libra rebooted. Its default voice spoke as if nothing had happened. Good evening, Mr. Powers. How may I help you today? The exec sagged against the wall, sweat darkening his collar. Is it over? I didn't answer. Part 6. The Aftermath. The exec stayed in the kitchen, staring at the counter like it might start talking again. I packed the neurocage into its hardened case, the frame still warm from the overcharge. The cage's display pulsed with the faint, erratic rhythm of its prisoner, a heartbeat made of corrupted code. You'll send me the invoice? The exec asked. His voice was too casual, too quick, a man desperate to return to the illusion that his life was normal. "Yeah," I said, and then, because it was true, "Change your locks, all of them." The elevator ride down was silent. No flicker in the ads this time, no distorted models looking my way. District 5 security grid probably thought its problem was solved. They never noticed the hooks left in the system until something tugs on them. Outside, the rain was still falling, slower now, heavier drops that hit the pavement with a flat, cold sound. I walked the few blocks back to the mag rail station with the case slung over my shoulder, its weight both comforting and nauseating. I've carried enough of these back to know sometimes you're bringing home a ghost. Sometimes you're bringing home a message. The ride back to District 8 was almost empty. I sat in the corner, watching the city peel itself away layer by layer, clean, bright, 5 collapsing into Industrial 6, then cracked and rusted 8. In the reflection on the mag rail window, I could see my own face. For just a second, I thought I saw another pair of eyes open in the dark space beside me. My flat was as I'd left it, dim, silent except for the slow tick of the radiator. I set the case on the workbench, the lock chirping open under my handprint. The neuro cage inside glowed faintly, threads of pale light writhing inside its frame. I hooked it into the decrypt rig. The machine whirred, drawing the prisoner's last moments into audible form. Liam's voice came first, warped, edges fraying in the compression. "He's watching, Kale. He knows you." Then, without distortion, as clear as if she were in the room, "Just waiting." Elara's voice. "My little girl." The glow in the neurocage pulsed once, and then I heard it, a sound no machine should make, a knock, soft, deliberate, from inside the frame. I killed the power. The knock came again. I stood there in the dark staring at the cage, wondering, not for the first time, if the thing I'm chasing out there is already in here.